All right, today we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth of my little backpack gun here. So, obviously this is my Galil Ace Pistol 7.62x39. Obviously, went over it in my last video. It takes AK mags, which is neat. Has left side charging handle, so it's a bit more user friendly as far as reloads, you know, left hand. Before I start swinging this thing around. So unloaded, and I am not as deep as I usually would be, or what I would like to be, I should say, for this video as far as round count. But, I mean, I've been shooting enough that I can give you a good opinion on it. I probably have at least 300 rounds into it now. And to be honest, I love this thing with the things that I've done to it anyway. I love the way that it's set up now. The only thing I still need to change is the muzzle brake, which is still the bird cage. I've just been looking for a war comp to put onto it, but I probably will just go to Optics Planet and just buy a new one and have it shipped, because they're like 120 bucks shipped off their website right now. And the bird cage does well. I have had an issue where when I went to shoot it this weekend, that I guess it heated up and the muzzle device loosened up. So you can see here, I can take it and I can just spin it by hand. So, I mean, that could just be a fault of my own of not tightening it well enough. Whenever I was messing with it one day, I kind of loosened it up, put it back together, and you can just blame it on me. I mean, I just didn't put it back together well enough. So I noticed in some of my videos, and you might see this in some of the footage that I put up, the bird cage was upside down. So it was basically throwing my gun higher than what I was normally used to. But even then, the recoil on this thing, the recoil impulse isn't that bad. It's very controllable. I got AFG and I got the owl up. So, you know, I got a good grip and pull into myself, and I can control it pretty well. It's not hard to keep down. As far as, you know, things I've done to it, so I put an owl on the front of it, and because I put an owl on there, I had to put a raised optic on this, because the way that the iron sights are, they run into it. So even with the owl there, I would be having to look through the owl to see my sight, which obviously is not optimal. So I put this Vortex, I had a Vortex Strikefire 2, and I bought an aim point mount from a buddy, and it's a QD mount, so I can take this off and put it back on, and it still holds 0. And so this is pretty much sighted in now. When I was at the range this weekend, I could hit the gong at 300 yards pretty consistently. So, which is surprising too, because of it's 7.62. You know, you don't think it's something that can shoot all that far, but you know, it was a consistent shoot, and then you hear gong hit. So I mean, that's one thing you'll notice too, though, with this configuration, because it is such a short barrel, and 7.62 being 7.62 by 39 the way that it is, it's a very slow round, especially out of the 8.5-inch barrel. But it still has plenty of power within that 300 yards that it wouldn't necessarily be an issue. And most of the time, you know, if you're taking a pistol like this, and you know, if you're in an engagement with this, you're really not going to go out past 200 yards most of the time anyway. And this, I could for certain say that this setup is accurate enough for 200-yard shots. You know, it's not something you're going to just be rattling off rounds. You know, you bring up, you shoot, and then you reset and shoot again. You know, taking your time in between each shot, you'll be accurate. Up close, though, it's a blast. You know, you can just rattle off rounds with it, and you know, within 25 yards, wherever you're looking with this, it's going to hit. As far as issues that I've had with it, I haven't really had any issues, maybe just mostly gripes. The factory grips on the side are pretty thick, and I have to find myself kind of reaching around pretty high there. But it, you know, and I've tried it with the cover off, and you know, then you just got kind of Picatinny riding into your hand, and that doesn't feel all that great. I might look into getting the Midwest Industries handguard, or a different handguard for this. Just because too, they just look more aesthetic in my opinion. I mean, these definitely don't look bad. I mean, it's a good look, but it could look better. And you know, whenever you're fighting someone and probably gonna, you know, if you might die, well, looking cool is the most important thing. So another thing is too, as far as magazines on this, so this magwell, this plastic cover, kind of gets in the way of most I don't know if you could say most, but there's quite a few magazines that you cannot run on this firearm because of this plastic shroud. So if you notice, it sinks, this magazine sinks in quite a bit. I mean, where my hand is, that's about how much of your magazine that's going to sink into this magwell. And because of that, so there's like Bulgarian mags, or like, say for example, US Palm mags, where they're a little bit thicker on the outside of this, or waffle mags. You can't run those in this firearm because they just won't fit inside this magwell. But something that I've seen people do, and I might do it myself, is you can take the grip and all this stuff off. You got to do a little bit of disassembly, but you can trim this plastic and then basically pop this back on with the trigger guard and your hand grip, and then you have none of this plastic here, and you can then accept the different magazines that might be a little bit too wide for clearance within this magwell. I haven't really have any other gripes about it. The folding stock is still extremely stiff, but I've kind of found myself doing it in a way where I just fold it up the same way every time. I just kind of put it down like this, obviously pointing away from people, and I push down, and then it folds right up, and it fits right in my go bag, and just carry it around all day with me. I mean, I don't really like the SB brace on this. I might look into converting this to an SBA3 brace, as opposed to, this is basically like an SBA4 brace. I mean, it looks fine. It's just I think the SBA3 looks a little bit better. I would love to SBR this thing, but I would also like to take it outside of state lines. So that means I don't really have that option. I'm talking about the safety. So the safety, I basically never use this safety here. I mean, on a once or twice occasion when I'm shooting, like when I was sighting the rifle end, I was doing this and then coming back up, just because it was a little bit easier to do that while I had it rested on bags and sighting it in for precision stuff. But most of the time, you know, I'm like this, and then I throw it up and I hit that while I'm throwing it up with my thumb, and it's just such a little bit more of a natural safety release. So, you know, you're down and you throw it up, and while you're throwing it up, you just like that, and then you're on target. And then you can see it's a little bit more easier than taking my hand off like this, because this way is a lot stiffer than doing the thumb method. I haven't really looked at the safety mechanism on the inside of this, but I imagine it's probably got a little bit of length to it, so it's probably, that's why it's a little bit easier to just flip with your thumb than doing it this way, because it's just a shorter lever. One feature that I would have liked on this particular firearm that comes on the 5.56 variant is a last round bolt hold open. I'm sure it's not necessarily their fault that they couldn't have a last round bolt hold open on the 7.62 variant, because of the way that the magazines are made and the way that the rounds fired doesn't necessarily accommodate for it. Last round bolt open is not a common thing on AKs, and it kind of carries over to this where it's just not a thing that you're really going to see on it. But the 5.56 variant has it, and it's got a little notch right here, so when your last round, it's open, and you pop your mag in, and you just take your finger and you just push down, and then you got another loaded mag. With this, you know, obviously it's normal AK stuff. You pop a mag in and you rack it and you're good to go. So it does slow down your reload a little bit, but it's one of the things, like, the more you practice with it, the better you're gonna get with it. I'll eventually end up doing a video on probably the owl by itself. I need to get better footage of it at night. I tried doing it with my phone, but unfortunately, I mean, even though I got the fancy new iPhone, just didn't really pick up the light that well from the owl. I mean, yeah, it shows a little bit of it, but it just wasn't all that great. I probably won't necessarily do a review on the Vortex. I mean, I might if enough people want to see it, but I mean, there's plenty of reviews out there of it already because it's a relatively affordable optic, and Vortex has a pretty good reputation when it comes to red dots. And, you know, I just don't necessarily see a reason for reviewing this unless Vortex wanted to send me another optic or something to look at. But all in all, I mean, I honestly, like, this is my favorite and my most satisfying firearm purchase that I've ever made. They're very hard to find right now, given the COVID stuff. But if you can get one of these in the 7.62 variant, I really enjoy it. I would like to try shooting one in a 5.56 variant to see how I like that as well. I'm sure I'd probably like it even better, just because given the nature of 5.56, just, you know, it doesn't recoil as much, or, you know, it's got lighter kick and all that stuff. But even then, I'd like to give it a try, just see how it is. But if you guys have any questions, you know, ask down below in the comments. I'll get to them. I'll read them. I try to read everyone's comments and reply to them. If you could like, comment, subscribe. I already told you to comment, but I said it again. And you know, I'm trying to do a little bit better on getting videos out quicker for you guys, so you can see just, you know, a little bit more stuff going on. Appreciate you guys coming by, and I'll see you in the next video.